What is going on, guys? Ultimate Deadpool here. And if you can tell by the title of this video, I'm extremely pissed off with Warner Brothers. So for those of you who may not be knowing this right now, um, there is a movie called Coyote vs. Acme. And basically what the movie is about, or was about before it apparently gets canceled, is it was supposed to be Wile E. Coyote, the classic Looney Tunes character, suing the Acme Corporation for giving him faulty products that don't work. And a few months ago, they announced that the movie was canceled. That it was going to get written off for tax purposes or whatever, and it was just dead like Batgirl was. As well as I think the Scoob prequel movie, and I think there were like 2 or 3 other ones that they were going to do the same thing to, but those eventually got made by other companies. So it was just up in the fence on whether or not the movie would ever be released. And recently, about, I think it was like maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, give or take, Coyote vs. Acme was supposed to be resurfaced and whatnot. And Warner Brothers, because of all the backlash that they got from saying, "Oh, we're gonna write the movie off for $30 million tax purposes." The movie cost 75, or like 75 to 80 million, and they're gonna write it off for 35 million. It's like you're losing money if you freaking write it off for tax purposes anyway. And there were companies wanting to buy the movie to distribute it because they actually were interested in it. Paramount, Amazon, Netflix, these were all companies that wanted to buy the movie, but Warner Brothers was like, I don't know, I don't think we're not gonna do that, because I've seen videos of people talk about this, and they all say the same thing. They were like, oh, well, we'll give you 45 or 40 or 50 or whatever. Like, nope, 75 seals the deal. Oh, nope, 80 seals the deal. And it's like, what? And it's like, when you look at it as a fan, it's like Warner's never had any interest to sell the movie. Because think of it this way, and I've seen people say the same thing. If, let's just say Warner Brothers does sell a movie, okay, and it ends up being a huge success on either Paramount, Amazon, or Netflix, and it's a big success, it would prove to everybody that Warner Brothers was wrong. So I don't think Warner actually had no intentions of selling the film, because if they did and it ended up being a success, it would show that they were wrong and they are idiots, which, I mean, they are. I mean, whoever's running Warner Bros. Right now, I think it's David Zaslav. You're an idiot, pal. I'm sorry. You're a straight up moron. Well, especially when he took over for Warner Brothers, like the number one thing he said was like, "We're gonna focus on our heavy hitting franchises, and Looney Tunes is one of them." And it's like, but yet you're canceling a Looney Tunes movie, dude. And from what I've heard, and this is just what I've heard, Coyote vs. Acme is actually a good movie. It's been testing well with test audiences. So many people and directors in Hollywood have actually watched it and said that the ending will make you cry, and it's just this really fun, powerful film that's just a turn off your brain, kind of enjoy your movie type movie. And it's like, if the movie is testing good, Warner Brothers, why don't you just roll the dice and gamble with it and see what happens? Hell, you could release it just on HBO Max or Max or whatever the hell they're calling it now. You could just release it on that for free. You won't make any money off of it. Everybody still gets to watch it, and all you have to do is just upload it to Amazon, to HBO Max. It'll be there forever. You're not gonna make a cent off of it, and people still get to enjoy the movie, and you can still say, hey, we were right, and said, oh, well, it was never going to do well in theaters, but it can do well on streaming. Like, I would love to be in the meetings of Warner Brothers right now, because this would be the fourth or fifth time that they have written off a movie for tax purposes. And I think I've said this in a previous video, and I know for a fact people have been saying this for months now, ever since Batgirl got canned and whatnot a couple years ago. Who in their right mind wants to work with Warner Brothers? I mean, think about it. The average time it takes to make a movie is, give or take, especially on animated films, is about maybe a year and a half, 2 years at most. And if you're just going to freaking, do all that time, you're going to spend time away from your family, you're going to spend time, busting your ass, you're going to spend time literally blood, sweat, and tears at whatever, trying to make a movie happen. And then you finally get it done, and the studio who's supposed to be distributing is like, we love your work, you did a great job, but we're running out of money, can't exactly release your movie, so it's never going to get to see the light of day, we're writing it off for tax purposes. It's like, who's going to want to do business with you? Like, let's just say for instance right now, that I was going to work with Warner Brothers, and let's just say I had this big movie idea in my head or whatever, and they said, great, we'll give you this much money, and it has to be done in this amount of time. I'm like, okay, great. I make the movie, I get it all set up and ready to go, and they're like, remember when we said that we were going to make this movie for you? Well, because of our idiotic business decisions, we're just going to cancel it entirely, and nobody's going to see what you did. So, hope you had fun making it, but really nobody's going to watch it. And it's like, why? Who is going to want to work with Warner Brothers right now? Because you got to figure, you got people up there, and in fact, if I remember correctly, just at like the day after Warner Brothers had released that they were going to be writing off Coyote versus Acme for tax purposes, as just a tax write-off, like, they received multiple, if not, I think the total was like over 1,000 or like 10,000 plus people or whatever called them and said, we don't want to do business with you, dude. And it's like, if Warner Brothers for some reason does another tax write-off, they're done. I cannot see that studio coming back. Because who's going to want to do business with a company that's just writing off movies left and right for tax purposes? And around the time Black Adam and stuff was supposed to be releasing, it was said that they only had enough money to distribute really 2 movies at that time, which was Black Adam and or like properly market the movie. And it's like, if you're that desperate for cash, then why don't you actually release the movies that you have instead of shelving them? Because, like, when Batgirl was supposed to be released, that movie was shot, finished, and ready to go. Or if it wasn't ready to go, it was just about ready to go. And they're like, you know what? We appreciate all the work that you guys did, but this movie's really not going to do anything, especially with everything that's going on right now. So, we love your work, but screw you, we're just going to put it on the shelf. And then they did put it on the shelf, and then later they're like, oh, we're going to have one screening as a funeral for the film, and then they're going to delete all the footage for it. And that's exactly what they ended up doing, if they haven't already. Or exactly what they were going to do if they haven't already. So, which means they basically were like, we're going to do one more final screening of this movie, so that way people can enjoy it one more time, and we're going to destroy the footage. And it's like, even if you're not going to make, even if you don't have no faith that the movie is going to do good, and any movie, it doesn't have to be just Coyote vs. Acme, you could have done the same thing with Batgirl, the Scoob prequel, I think it was Merry Little Batman that almost got canceled, and a couple of other ones. You could have done the same thing that I just suggested by putting it on HBO Max or whatever the hell they've renamed it to. You could have put it on that for free. You still wouldn't make any money off of it. and people could still sit and watch and enjoy it, and you would still it would still give you the same thing. The only difference is you would not get any money out of it. If they write it off for tax purposes, they get whatever the tax company says, okay, well, this movie's worth about this much or whatever, we'll give you this much for it, so that way it never sees the light of day. And that's exactly what Coyote vs. Acme is supposed to do. If they write it off for tax purposes, they get like, I think, $35 or $38 million out of it, when the movie costs about 75 or 80. So it's like, either way, you're losing money. So it's like, just release it on HBO Max or whatever you want to call it, and just let it be out there. If it's testing positive, either release it in theaters or release it on streaming. It's not going to kill you. I mean, and if it does, well, then you're a shitty company anyway right now, because I remember when I was a kid, there were two companies to beat. If you worked with Warner Brothers, you were golden. If you worked with Disney, you were set for life. Back when I was a kid. And now it's just like Disney, yeah, they're a whole other can of worms. But Warner Brothers has just gone from this like massive, massive giant in the movie industry to like rock bottom, 6 feet under, buried deep, nobody's coming out of that hellhole type studio. And it's just because Warner Brothers has been just sold and rinsed and sold and rinsed and sold, from studio to studio to studio, company to company to company, person to person to person. And it's like, it's just getting laughable at this point, man. And, you know, again, like I said before, you know, people who have an idea and like, let's just say, for instance, they've always dreamed of working with Warner Brothers because back in the early 2000s, they were like the biggest company at the time with the exception of Disney. And it's like, oh, and Sony too. Sony was kind of head up in there too. But it's like Warner Brothers was like the big top dog in the early 2000s, and then all of a sudden they just slowly, steadily declined. And then like right at 2015, 2017, or whatever, plummet. Like, they went straight from, you know, okay, well, we're manageable, to, okay, we have a huge crater now. And it's like, you know, as a creator myself on YouTube, obviously, you know, it's like, let's just say, for instance, that, you know, Warner Brothers or some executive or whatever says, oh, hey, this guy's got some fun ideas, let's bring him in and see what he can do. Okay. I go up there, I hear what they have to say, they give me an idea. I'll be like, great. 2 years later, it's like, oh, you're screwed. Who's going to care? Excuse my mouth, who the fuck is going to want to work with Warner Brothers? Because, I mean, all they're doing is just literally shoehorning a bunch of hard-working people. Like, for those of you who may not know, you know, there's a lot of stuff that goes into making a movie, and that's for any film. You know, it could be, even if it's like a low budget piece of crap movie, like, you know, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey last year, which I actually found to be a little bit of fun, even though it was extremely stupid for its low budget. I'm anxious to see the second one though. But, you know, even if it's that kind of low budget, there's still a lot of stuff that goes into making that movie. You have an entire crew of people, you have a whole bunch of actors, you got a whole bunch of shots, retakes, remakes, or retakes and all that stuff. You've got stuff, there's a lot of stuff that goes into making a film, and you pair that up with this entire group of team, plus you have the animators and stuff with Coyote vs. Acme, because it was a Looney Tunes movie, so it was a cartoon CGI hybrid type thing, like, you know, Looney Tunes Back in Action, the first Space Jam, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, stuff like that. It was stuff along that side. So it was half animated, half live action, which is great. I love those kind of movies. I remember as a kid, I loved Who Framed Roger Rabbit, except for the ending, because Christopher Lloyd scared the hell out of me as a kid. But, like, Space Jam, Looney Tunes Back in Action, you know, movies of that caliber, I loved as a kid because they were just so fun, and it was so fun seeing a 2D character in a 3D in a live action setting, because it was weird, it was off-putting, but it was so fun. And that's exactly what Coyote vs. Acme was supposed to be. There were reports saying that it was just as good, if not better, than Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And at the time, when Who Framed Roger Rabbit came out, that was a huge success when it was first released. I wasn't born at the time, but it was a humongous success when it first came out because it was never done before. It was hardly ever done. The whole cartoonish thing in the real world, that had hardly ever been done, especially let alone for a freaking full, hour and a half, hour 45 minute long movie. That hadn't been done before, really. And now, so many years later, what they were going to have John Cena as the villain. They had an awesome director, an Academy Award writer, and just an entire list of like positive things. And they're like, you did good. But they're gonna do better. And it's like, don't get me wrong, John Cena and them, yes, John Cena is a big actor in Hollywood right now, but he's not like, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or, Robert Downey Jr. or Tom Holland. He's not that high up on the list, but he's still a pretty decent sized actor on the laundry list of good actors. And, James Gunn is also a producer, or like a CEO exec or whatever at Warner Brothers. His name was attached as producer. He can't say a word. He can't say a thing about this, because if he does, it's going to be like, well, you're just biased because it's your movie. You're a producer. And now that you're an executive for DC, you can't say shit. And it's like, dude. So, that's just me. For those of you who may not know this, and I should have said this at the beginning of the video, I'm a Looney Tunes fan. Always have been, always will be. I love the original cartoon. I like some of the straight-to-movies and stuff that they did in the early 2000s. I loved Space Jam and Looney Tunes Back in Action, especially the Looney Tunes Back in Action. Steve Martin, MVP in that movie, aside from Brendan Fraser. Those two guys made that movie for me. But, and then I didn't care for Space Jam New Legacy because I didn't watch it. But it's like, I've always loved Looney Tunes, and that's just one of my favorite franchises. And this is a Looney Tunes movie that seems to be good, but they're like, it seems to be good, but we don't want to risk it. Sorry. And it's like, just release the damn movie, guys. Like, I seriously guarantee about 5, 6, 7 months from now, there's going to be another tax write-off movie. And it's going to piss off the internet so much. It could be like an unknown type movie, like just to say randomly, for instance. Like, there's a rumor that like a Stephen King movie or whatever was in the works or whatever. It has been like dead silent for like 2 years. And it was mostly because of like the pandemic stuff and whatnot that it was not released. But it's like, sooner or later, Warner Brothers is just going to write that movie off for tax purposes too. And it's like, at that point, Warner Brothers is just going to die. Like, if they don't go bankrupt by the end of 2024, I'll be shocked. Like, truly shocked. Because none of their movies are making profit. The Flash was like this supposed to be really big movie that, Warner Brothers was going to do. And it's like, this movie's going to be good. Tom Cruise gave his freaking seal of approval on it. And that movie didn't even break even. It bombed so badly at the box office. It didn't even break even. Shazam! Fury of the Gods bombed big time. Black Adam bombed big time. Aquaman 2, for the most part, has bombed. And it's like, granted, these are all superhero movies, but they're still Warner Brother films. And it's like, Space Jam: A New Legacy, when that first came out, that bombed for the most part. And it's just like, Warner Brothers is just taking L after L after L, loss after loss after loss after loss. And it's like, you gotta wonder how many more times can they fail and they basically get chewed out, kicked in the balls, whatever you want to call it, before they're like, you know what? We're done. We're done. We're throwing our hat in. We're throwing in the towel. We're done. Because I seriously guarantee in about maybe 5, 6, 7 months or whatnot, if James Gunn's Superman Legacy or whatever fails, DC is dead. If Warner Brothers as a company writes off any more movies for tax purposes, nobody's going to want to do business with them. And that people who still want to do business with them are going to end up stopping doing business with them because they don't want to have their freaking hard-earned work suffer the same fate. So I give it about maybe 6 months to a year. 6 months to a year to 2 years tops before Warner Brothers is just completely dead and forgotten. Because they just keep making stupid decision after stupid decision after stupid decision, and they're hemorrhaging money right now. And like Warner Brothers needs like an Avengers Endgame style success to get at least to where they're like tolerable. And you know, it's just awful to think that, you know, in the early 2000s and whatnot, when, you know, when I was a kid, you know, Warner Brothers was like this gigantic studio that everybody wanted to work with. And now they're at like the freaking bottom of the barrel. Nobody wants to mess with them. It's almost like you hear the name Warner Brothers and it's like you stepped in dog crap. Like, that's seriously what I feel like now. Like, when anybody says, or I see people talk about Warner Brothers, like, that's the reaction they have. It's like, ugh. Like, oh, you stepped in dog shit with Warner Brothers? Like, that's what it is. But seriously, like, early 2000s, Warner Brothers was the people to beat aside from Disney. And now they're just like, hey there, Warner Brothers. You're at the very bottom of the well. Nobody cares about you anymore. Oh, what's that? You need more crap? Here, we'll just dump in more manure. And that's exactly what it is. It's just, I seriously guarantee, about 2 years from now, Warner Brothers is either going to go bankrupt and have to freaking be like, you know what, we're going to sell our properties and whatnot to other companies and be like, we're done. We had a good run. See ya, fellas. Or they seriously need like an Avengers Endgame style like success movie to at least get back up to a tolerable standard, because their movies have just been bombing left and right. And it's like, how many more bombs can you take and how many more tax write-off movies can you do before you just like, you know what, we clearly can't do this shit anymore. We need to either hire somebody better or do something. Because I remember when David Zaslav was signed on, he was going to be like, we're going to focus on our big stuff. We're going to focus on Looney Tunes. We're going to focus on, you know, DC. We're going to focus on, you know, all these big franchises and whatnot. And he's done none of it. None of it. At least with James Gunn, on the other hand, he's been saying, oh yeah, we're going to do Superman. We're going to do Batman. We're going to do, you know, like Green Lantern, finally. And a handful of other characters. And it's like, Zaslav's like, oh yeah, Looney Tunes is definitely going to be doing it. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing this. We have these people. We have these people. It's like, but at the same time, you're not doing anything. You're not doing shit. So that's just my 24-minute rant of why I think Warner Brothers just needs to throw in the towel, because this is getting embarrassing. And I seriously, no joking, all joking aside, dead serious, I almost guarantee in about 2 years to 3 years, if James Gunn's DC stuff does not save Warner Brothers is just going to die. They are seriously on the verge of becoming 20th Century Fox and having that entire studio just die. Because that's exactly what happened with 20th Century Fox. You know, granted, they were outbought by Disney, but that's because every single movie that they had been releasing after Deadpool 2 was just bad. So much so that it was laughable. And then they're like, okay, we surrender to you, Disney. And Disney outbought Fox. Almost guarantee Warner Brothers is headed in the same direction. So, anyway, that's just my rant on the entire thing. If you guys have been, some of you guys have been wondering what I thought about Acme, Coyote versus Acme, there you go. So, it sucks right now, and hopefully, if it, as horrible as it is to say, I hope that Warner Brothers makes another tax write-off at some point, just so that way they can be like, oh crap. Like, then let me rephrase that. I hope that a whole bunch of people like stop working with Warner Brothers, so much so that they almost go out of business, because they clearly don't know how to make movies anymore. If they just, every single movie they make, they have to just write it off for tax purposes. So, I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore. There's rumors that Coyote vs. Acme will still get released, and there's others that are saying like, oh, nope, we'll just delete the footage. And so it's like, who knows, man? Who knows? So, anyway, let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you guys all next time on Ultimate Deadpool. Peace out. You guys are awesome. I'll catch you guys all later. Bye.